The Mystery of the Haunted House. Chapter 1, The Strange House. In a small town called Oakwood, there was a house that everyone avoided. People said it was haunted by ghosts. Detective Emily, a brave and smart detective, decided to investigate the house. She wanted to find out if the rumors were true. One dark and stormy night, Detective Emily approached the house. The wind was blowing hard, and the trees were swaying back and forth. Chapter 2, Entering the House. Detective Emily opened the creaky front door and stepped inside. The house was very old and dusty. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling. She turned on her flashlight and began to explore. Every step she took made a loud creaking sound. Suddenly, she heard a strange noise coming from upstairs. It sounded like someone was walking around. Chapter 3, Finding Clues. Detective Emily went upstairs to see what was making the noise. She found a room that looked like it hadn't been touched in years. There was an old diary on a table. She picked it up and started reading. The diary belonged to a girl named Sarah who lived in this house many years ago. As she read, she learned that Sarah had lost her brother in this very house. People believed his spirit still roamed here. Chapter 4, Meeting Sarah's Ghost. While reading, Detective Emily felt a cold breeze even though all the windows were closed. She looked up and saw a ghostly figure standing in front of her. It was Sarah's ghost, but instead of being scared, Detective Emily felt curious. "Why are you here?" asked Detective Emily softly. "I'm looking for my brother," replied Sarah's ghost sadly. Chapter 5, Solving the Mystery. Detective Emily decided to help Sarah find her brother's spirit. Together, they searched every room in the house. Finally, they found an old hidden room behind a bookshelf. Inside this room was a small grave with a stone that read, "John, Sarah's brother." Sarah's ghost smiled and thanked Detective Emily for helping her find peace. Chapter 6, Saying Goodbye. With her brother found, Sarah's ghost disappeared into thin air. The house no longer felt haunted, it felt peaceful instead. Detective Emily left the house feeling happy that she had solved another mystery and helped someone find peace after so many years. From that day on, people stopped avoiding the house because they knew it wasn't haunted anymore. Chapter 7, The Town's Reaction. The next day, everyone in Oakwood heard about what happened at the haunted house. They were amazed by Detective Emily's bravery and kindness. People started calling her the Ghost Detective because she solved mysteries involving spirits too. The Magic Paintbrush. Chapter 1, The Art Store. In a small town called Willow Creek, there was an old art store named Colors and Dreams. The store was run by a kind old man named Mr. Thompson. One day, a young girl named Lily walked into the store. She loved to paint and draw. Chapter 2, Finding the Paintbrush. Lily looked around the store and saw many paints, brushes, and canvases. She noticed an old paintbrush hidden behind some other brushes. Mr. Thompson saw her interest in the old paintbrush and said, "That's a special brush. It's been here for a long time." Chapter 3, The Magic Revealed. Lily bought the old paintbrush and took it home. She decided to try it out on a new painting. As soon as she started painting with the brush, something magical happened. Everything she painted came to life. Chapter 4, Painting a Garden. Lily painted a beautiful garden with flowers, trees, and birds. To her surprise, the garden appeared right in front of her eyes. She walked into the garden and saw all the flowers blooming and birds flying around. Chapter 5, Painting Friends. Next, Lily painted pictures of her friends who were feeling sad because they couldn't play outside due to rain. When she finished painting, her friends appeared in front of her smiling and happy. Chapter 6, Helping Others. Lily realized that she could use the magic paintbrush to help others. She painted pictures of food for hungry animals and toys for children who didn't have any. Everything she painted helped make people and animals happy. Chapter 7: Returning the Brush. One day, Mr. Thompson came to visit Lily. He saw all the wonderful things she had done with the magic paintbrush. He told her that it was time for him to take back the brush because its work was done here. Lily was sad but understood that others might need it too. She thanked Mr. Thompson and gave him back the brush. Chapter 8: Remembering the Magic. Even though Lily didn't have the magic paintbrush anymore, she remembered all the good things she had done with it. She continued to paint and draw every day using regular brushes, but always remembered how special that one brush was. The Lost Puppy. Chapter 1: The Happy Family. In a small town called Greenfield, there lived a happy family. There was Mom, Dad, and their 2 children, Emily and Timmy. They had a cute puppy named Max. Max was a golden retriever with fluffy fur and a wagging tail. The family loved Max very much. Chapter 2: The Adventure Begins. One sunny day, while the family was out in the park, Max saw a squirrel and ran after it. He chased the squirrel into the woods and got lost. Emily and Timmy called out for Max, but he didn't come back. They were very worried. Chapter 3: Searching for Max. The family decided to search for Max together. They walked through the woods calling out his name. "Max, Max," they shouted, but there was no answer. As they walked deeper into the woods, it started to get dark. The family knew they had to find Max before nightfall. Chapter 4: Meeting a Friend. While searching, they met an old man who lived in a small cabin in the woods. His name was Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson had lived in the woods for many years and knew them well. He offered to help the family find Max. Chapter 5: Following Clues. Mr. Johnson suggested they follow some footprints that looked like they belonged to a puppy. They followed these footprints until they came across a small stream. On the other side of the stream, they saw Max drinking water from it. He was safe but looked tired. Chapter 6: Reuniting with Max. The family was overjoyed to see Max again. They hugged him tightly and thanked Mr. Johnson for his help. Mr. Johnson smiled and said, "You're welcome. I'm glad we found your puppy." The family walked back home with Max by their side, feeling happy and relieved. Chapter 7: Learning a Lesson. When they got home, Emily and Timmy realized that they should always keep an eye on Max when they are out. Their parents agreed and promised to be more careful next time. Max wagged his tail happily knowing he was back home with his loving family. The Little Robot's Big Adventure. Chapter 1: The Inventor's Workshop. In a small workshop, an inventor named Dr. Maria worked on her latest project. She was building a little robot named Zeta. Zeta was small, shiny, and had big round eyes. Dr. Maria programmed Zeta to help people in need. Chapter 2: The First Test. One day, Dr. Maria decided to test Zeta. She took Zeta to the park and gave him a task, to find a lost ball for a little boy. Zeta beeped happily and set off to find the ball. He searched high and low until he found it under a bush. The little boy was so happy to get his ball back that he hugged Zeta. Chapter 3: The Big Storm. That evening, a big storm came to the town. Strong winds blew, and heavy rain poured down. Dr. Maria worried about Zeta because he was still outside. But Zeta was determined to help. Chapter 4: Helping during the storm. Zeta saw an old lady struggling to close her windows against the wind. He quickly ran to help her. With his strong robotic arms, Zeta closed all the windows and even fixed a broken door. The old lady thanked Zeta and gave him a warm smile. Chapter 5, Saving the Cat. As the storm continued, Zeta heard a faint meowing sound coming from a nearby tree. A cat was stuck in the branches. Without hesitation, Zeta climbed the tree using his robotic legs and rescued the cat. The cat's owner was very grateful and hugged both Zeta and her cat tightly. Chapter 6, Returning Home. After helping many people during the storm, Zeta returned to Dr. Maria's workshop. He was tired but happy knowing he had made a difference. Dr. Maria was proud of Zeta and gave him a big hug. "You're more than just a robot," she said. "You're a hero." Chapter 7, Celebrating Zeta's Heroism. The next day, the whole town celebrated Zeta's heroism during the storm. People cheered and clapped for him. The little boy whose ball Zeta found gave him a big thank you card. The old lady brought him some delicious cookies. Zeta beeped happily knowing he had made so many people happy. The Magical Library. Chapter 1, The Mysterious Library. In a quiet town called Willowdale, there was a mysterious library that few people knew about. The library was hidden behind a secret door in an old bookstore. A curious girl named Sophia loved reading and exploring new places. One day, she stumbled upon the secret door while browsing through the bookstore. Chapter 2, Discovering the Library. Sophia pushed the secret door open and found herself in a vast, magical library. The shelves were filled with books that glowed softly in the dim light. A friendly librarian, Mrs. Jenkins, greeted Sophia warmly. "Welcome to our magical library," she said. Chapter 3, The Talking Books. As Sophia explored the library, she noticed that some books were talking to her. One book told her about adventures in far-off lands, while another shared secrets of ancient magic. Sophia was amazed and delighted by these talking books. She spent hours listening to their stories and learning new things. Chapter 4, Helping a Lost Book. One day, Sophia heard a faint whispering from a bookshelf. A small book was lost and couldn't find its way back to its proper place. Sophia decided to help the lost book. She searched through the shelves until she found the right spot for it. The lost book thanked Sophia and told her that she had earned a special reward for her kindness. Chapter 5, The Reward. Mrs. Jenkins appeared with a smile and handed Sophia an old key. "This key unlocks any book in this library," she explained. Sophia was thrilled and used the key to unlock a mysterious book with golden locks. Inside, she found stories of brave heroes and magical creatures. Chapter 6, Sharing the Magic. Sophia realized that she wanted to share this magical library with her friends. Mrs. Jenkins agreed but warned her that only those with kind hearts could see the library's magic. Sophia invited her friends to visit the library. And those who were kind-hearted saw the talking books and magical stories just like she did. Chapter 7, Becoming a Librarian. As time passed, Sophia spent more and more time in the magical library helping Mrs. Jenkins and learning about its secrets. When Mrs. Jenkins decided it was time for her to retire, she chose Sophia as her successor because of her love for books and her kind heart.